All right, today we're going to do part 2 of the Kirkwall scroll. This is a Masonic scroll hanging in one of their lodges. If you want the backstory, you should watch part 1. But this is somebody's pointing out here that a depiction of the Last Judgment is also similar to what we see on the Kirkland scroll. And this is just one panel of it. This thing is huge. It's got like 7 panels. Just go back and watch the first video. But this second part is going to be focused on the rest of the symbolism, the rest of the panels and what the panels mean. Now, immediately here, I see Leviathan, I see St. Lorraine cross, I see somebody in a Moloch or Baal or Squatterman pose, I see Jesus with the 2 witnesses, I see the Squatterman, I'm reminded of Enki with some liquid or fluid, and I'll give you examples of all this. I see a circle with a cross in it in the upper middle. And I see like Ouroboros or like Aurora Borealis, like the energy, the plasmatic energy that surrounds our world. So if you need to go back and reference this, you can, or pull up an image of it. But this is a plasma stack, basically, of toroids that kind of flatten out and then warp. And it's as within, so without, as below, so above. This looks just like the base of our spine and our spinal column going up and then branching out to the skull, or a person with their arms up on top. And if you know anything about my Squatterman vids, there's so many references to it in pop culture. And I just wonder, because it's the same pose that Moloch makes, right? Moloch the bull. And it just seems like there's a lot going on right now, signifying that we may be in some kind of end times or Omega event. But research Anthony Peratt or my Squatterman vids if you want to know more about the how this all works. It's plasma ionized, gas ionizes the plasma in our sky somehow and starts following magnetic field lines. And everywhere I look, I see this stuff that makes no sense in any other context except for in this framework, right? Because the Kirkwall scroll just has a bunch of random nonsense on it. And it just so happens to line up with religious iconography, petroglyphs, and plasma discharge found the world over. And they have all these secret societies like Order of the Dragon, right? And Draconostarum could mean of the Draconians, or the starum part could be of the stars. So it could be the dragon stars or the dragons from the stars. But they even wink at you and have names like Otto von Wonkerstein, part of these Green Dragon, Aurora Borealis, Ouroboros secret societies. Or as I heard some people say, they're not really secret societies. You can look them up on Wikipedia. They're societies with secrets. They keep secrets. They keep the secrets of these reset events. Now, in this one, you're going to see the keyhole, blue ribbon, the anchor, and the Starbucks logo. So, look, a little triangle with the circle on top. At certain different points, it almost looks like a keyhole. It's also, I see a lot of the blue ribbon shape. There's a lot of sacred geometry in this, too, that could represent the orbit of Venus above us. On the bottom right, there's the anchor, which is also the same thing as the money sign, or the staff of Asclepius, or the staff of Hermes, or the Starbucks logo. And this is what I mean by the keyhole, or the eye on top of the pyramid. They're supposed tombs in Japan, and they even have the concentric bullseye circles in the middle. Remember that. This is from Universal Co-Masonry Online Magazine. They said they found Masonic symbols in a temple in Mexico. This reminds me of the Christmas tree, right? It gets thinner towards the top, and then it's topped with a star. These are geoglyphs in, I think, Saudi Arabia, like etched into the ground, kind of like the Nazca lines, but looks like same thing here to me, right? The keyhole, or like a Lombardi trophy, or like this thing, right? Ta, or Tanith, they call it, or Tanit, in where this is. And you see the T faces, you see the X's. Remember the T faces and X's. There'll be a lot more of that. And who knows? Jay Dreamers, who I respect and like watching his stuff, he thinks that this symbol happens in the inverted dome, and we see it there, and it's stationary. Other people, like David Talbot, have thought there was an ancient alignment at our north center magnetic pole of a couple different planets. Immanuel Velikovsky thinks it was basically Venus acting as a comet and descending from the sky as Lucifer and causing electromagnetic destruction. But regardless of what happened, if it was a solar flare or a black hole sun discharge or whatever, something ionized the gas in our sky, excited that, and it created these giant neon shapes in the sky. Kind of like that Paul Simon song, Sounds of Silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, right? And it's the same thing as the blue ribbon. The gases in our lower sky ionized as plasma, and like plasma is like, that's what the dragons are symbolizing too, and they're like, they can be wavy, well, so can ribbons, right? And I think this is also Yaldabaoth. Like it's either like a serpent, flying serpent, or a serpent with a lion head, or a chicken head, right? With chicken serpent is the same thing as a feathered serpent, right? A chicken with snake tails. That's what Abraxas gets depicted as. I think that was Yaldabaoth in that last picture. But I think it's all the same thing. Here it is again, like the pyramid with the eye on top, or the keyhole, or it starts to morph into the Ankh or Tanis, right? And it goes, sometimes it's just drawn as these X's that make up like an hourglass with a head and some arms, right? And I think that's very interesting because the hourglass represents time. That's the shape they chose. I'm sure they could have made an hourglass a different shape. Why did they choose the shape they did? Does it represent what we see in the sky, the shape we see in our sky during the Alpha Omega event, right? If we just see the top because of our latitude or altitude, it looks like a Holy Grail. Did you see the bottom? Looks like a big bell or a Hershey kiss. Here it is again, just more stuff that looks just like keyholes. And, are those kivas too? Kivas? Are those the kivas that the Hopi pray in? Is the keyhole pattern the key to figuring all this out? Do I get a blue ribbon for cracking the code? But yeah, why do the Masons choose the G, right? Do we have a center celestial star that's fixed and then kind of a domed environment that we're in? I don't know. But there's also this secret society, or society with secrets, and it's always royals, right, with fancy pins that have the fleur-de-lis and the diving doves and the cygnus, or whatever you want to call it. And this one's the blue ribbon. It's the Blue Ribbon Society. There's literally like a blue ribbon. That's where the like cordon bleu, the blue cord. And it's the keyhole is the same shape that we see that are, flying saucers. So is this just the ancient like memory that has been remembered different ways, right? And morphed through culture and iconography and telephone games, right? The blue ribbon, right? These are petroglyphs on the left. On the right, that's Aladdin. That's a genie. It's jinn. It's smokeless fire. Plasma, right? Coming from the lamb or the lamp. And then, this reminds me of how it starts to spiral out into the fishtail, but it also reminds me of the Eye of Ra. We'll see some stuff a little later on the guy from Persia. I can't remember. Zoroaster. Same thing, right? Look here. It's the Starbucks thing. It's just the arms and the legs of this squatting figure they see in the air can kind of go up or down depending on the currents. And then they can also kind of start wrapping around on themselves and turning from arms into like a T, then to like an M, and then to like an infinity symbol, right? Or a set of Hooters. And you'll see that in all these different things, right? If you watch the videos, you'll eventually see it. So, Yod, He, Vav, He, right? So the Vav was originally a Y shape, just like the flux capacitor in Back to the Future. There's the 88, there's the Ouroboros, there's the arms folding in on themselves, creating an infinite loop, right? Is this related to time travel somehow? Or the resets? I had a request in my last video, or one of my videos, to do a deep dive on 88 and gematria, and it popped up here just randomly, so... and then the word, the Yod supposedly came from hand as a fist, representing power or might. Walk like an Egyptian, right? The Egyptian walk like an Egyptian. All the how does it say it? All the paintings in the tombs, they do the same dance, don't you know? They're telling you all the paintings in the tombs do the sand dance. The same dance, the sand dance. Because they're all the Squatterman Plasma Apocalypse event. And also in some of these images coming up of the Kirkwall scroll, you're going to see they have totems just like this. Looks just like the Maori totems, right? With the tongue out and the weird faces. They look like kind of scary Tibetan masks too. But the Maori even have the swirls on their face. Like we'll see a bunch of plasma swirls in these magnetohydrodynamic examples of the X shapes and stuff. The plasma filament columns that I'll show you later. But look, it's even here. This is what they're rubbing in our face. The knowledge of this event, right? The tongue out is part of this. The devil horns or the crescent shape is part of this. The wink, the one eye symbolism, just like Odin, is part of this. The eye in the sky. What else? I mean, just everything they do, right? The all-mocking tongue, the Illuminati, the triangle with the eye on top. The all-mocking tongue. But in Tibet, it's a greeting. They actually greet people in a silly way, just with their tongue, right? But all of this stuff I'm showing you is connected to the Kirkwall scroll. Magnetically confined plasma and plasma discharge, plasma physics, ionized gas going through Z-pinches. This is a Tesla coil, right? And it looks just like the Ionian columns, just like the bottom of the shape we've been talking about. And Ionian columns, ionized gas is plasma. And these are the counter-rotating magnetic fields that are produced by electrical currents. So plasma is basically electrified air, electrified gas, and they call it St. Elmo's fire, right? When it used to happen naturally on tops of big buildings and ships, and it was this blue glow, and they didn't know what it was. Isn't that funny that they've got the Ionian column counter-rotating shapes on this bar called St. Elmo on the turtle shell, tortoise, Tortuga, Taurus, Tower, Turtle Shell, Earth. Anyway, there's also these ancient gods that, these are the counter-rotating magnetic currents that are created by that electricity, right? When the sky electrifies and the gases show us what it does when it interacts with magnetic fields, when it ionizes, Ionian columns. And, you're going to see in this next image from the Kirkwall scroll, they have something that looks like the Ark of the Covenant. Well, there's so many other things that are arcs, electricity arcs, right? Electricity arcs. So, and a lot of this old Masonic stuff shows us under an arced dome or something, right? And you see those figures on the right and the left on the columns. We got the Maori masks or the totem or the Tibetan things in the middle. There's the Ark of the Covenant. Below, we've got the circle with the cross in the middle, which we see on the seven-headed Squatterman glyph from Russia. I forgot to point that out earlier. We've got the Va or Yad or Vav or whatever up there. And this is the next one. And in this one, so I just showed you all the pictures from that last one. Now this one, we're going to see them after I break it down. So I see the two horns at the top of the fireplace or whatever, the mantle. I see a star fort shape in the bottom right. I see some T-pillars, some T-shaped pillars. I see a jester's cap, which also is kind of forming into that T or that M. And I see something that looks like the Gmail. Reminds me of the Gmail logo too a little bit. So let's see where we can find all that stuff in ancient history expressed by multiple cultures that can't be a coincidence, no way, no how. Right? Peru versus Egypt. They just both wore those weird, funny gold hats with two really tall sections on them for no reason. And why are they on these what do they know about the star forts that they don't tell us that they have to depict them on this scroll, right? This one's in New Mexico. And yeah, sure, they'll tell you in the narrative that the Civil War, part of it was fought in New Mexico or something, but our narrative, everything's a lie. And then, there's these star forts that they're entire mounds of earth with 16 million bricks and just geometric, like fractal shapes, cymatic shapes. And then there's ones that are simple, or maybe this is just part of one, but it looks like the Mason shape, right? So, and then like I said, I saw the T-pillars in that last image. And this is from Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. I didn't know the pillars were this big until I was like researching for this episode this morning. I called in to work today. Had a headache, but not bad enough to stop me from digging into stuff. I can only sleep so much. This is one of the pillars too. I see a lot of wavy lines that I associate with plasma or the chevron image. I see a spider there too. And interestingly enough, I think they use the Jester's cap as a symbol. And in this game I play called Magic, The Gathering, they have this card. And I remember it from a long time ago. And it's part of the set called Ice Age. So when this event happens, does it screw our climate up so bad that we get set? Like, it heats it up so much that it triggers a cooling. And then we are actually going to be in the Ice Age before we're ever, anyway, before it gets too hot, basically, it's going to get cold. And anyway, and then it'll warm up again, and we'll rather rinse, repeat. For a while, this is the T-face man. It morphs into an M, and then it loops around to form a figure 8 or 2 boobies. And, in the narrative, they say this is a lion. But yeah, just like the Greek Medusa or the Aztec Tonatiuh or this mask in Indonesia, it's all the same thing. And you see the tongue? That's where the whole mocking tongue comes from. Kiss, Rolling Stones, all that. Here, and then these things, when they happen in the sky, a lot of times, I'll show you later, they're fractal, or they're kind of mirrored too. And so they represent, this is the fleur-de-lis, right? And the fleur-de-lis isn't something like French from recent times or anywhere recent, right? It goes all the way back to Babylon. The Anunnaki were depicted with the fleur-de-lis. It means flower of life, but it's just one of the ways they can interpret and stylize and depict and symbolize this sky event, this Squatterman plasma apocalypse, I call it. Some people call it the EMPCO event, electromagnetic pulse changeover event. Some people call it the Phoenix event. There's all kinds of names you could call it. Some people probably call it revelation or apocalypse or who knows. But this is, like Thor, and everybody has this trifurcated weapon. And these are just some images from plasma going through different plasma physics instability processes, Z-pinches, more intense currents, and you can see how these different shapes occur. Now this one, you can even see this the Starbucks goddess too, because his legs wrap around him to form the Ouroboros, right? But then you see the fleur-de-lis on top. It's cool how many different ways this was depicted. Sometimes as birds, sometimes as fish. It all depends on what part of this thing they were depicting. And here we got the same thing that's on the Eye of Ra, right? Those little curls that came off that were on the petroglyph earlier. And then they take this logo and, Aerosmith, Detroit Red Wings, Mini Cooper, Journey, wheel in the sky keeps on turning. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow, but I do know that one of my favorite Egyptian gods, no doubt, probably my favorite, is Medjed. And Medjed shoots lasers out of his eyes, and he's associated with judgment. Medjed, baby, no doubt. There's the curly things coming off like the Eye of Ra and Eye of Horus again. I wonder why he shoots laser out of his eyes. But this is why the owl is so prevalent in symbolism too, because it's the same. It's this shape, kind of like that plasma takes when it follows our magnetic field. But the thing is electricity does create a magnetic field. They're kind of like electromagnetism. They're one thing, interrelated. But here's just some examples of when it loops around to form the figure 8. Yeah. And then this is some examples of how it's like fractal, right? It'll repeat patterns and stack up on top of itself sometimes. But sometimes the ones in the middle completely collapse, and you just see the ones at the top and the bottom, and it looks like a giant dude. And I think that's the final manifestation of it, is when it's just this giant squatting man, because that's the most common trope, and it's definitely the most recognizable too. But as these little M's or mushrooms or T's stack up on top of each other, jellyfish. Here you can see the toroids on the side didn't, they collapsed to flatten, but they didn't disappear. It looked like a hula hoop. He's got his snake in one hand and 2 trifurcated weapons in the other hand. There's like a cross on his chest, and he's a giant T-faced mushroom head. Right? This clearly represents the plasma sheath with the toroids in the middle. And to me, he's got the snake on his side too, the serpent, right? And it looks like the double-headed eagle to me. And when you look at that top left image of the double eagle from Gyroft culture, I think that was in Iran, you see the plasmoid stack and you see the double-headed eagle, right? I mean, and look at the bottom right. It looks like electricity more than an actual double-headed eagle, and more like a chicken, right? So it's just they see it in the air, but it's electric, so it's like a flying serpent, right? Or a bearded dragon, a feathered dragon, feathered serpent, rainbow dragon. And that doesn't look like a dragon would look. It looks like a stylized version of a dragon, but I definitely see the T or the M or the mushroom, right? That would indicate, this event would have been highly destructive, because it would have been really hot and super electric. It was electric. Ballroom blitz, right? And the man in the back is ready to crack as he raises his arms to the sky. And was something about the girl, something, and she'll kill you with the wink of her eye. Oh, yeah, it was electric, right? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening. But yeah, I'm starting to see more of these corporate symbols and Masonic symbols. Look, okay, in the bottom half of the image, all the way on the right, the first one. It looks like an envelope. Looks like the Gmail or the Masonic envelope, just with some extra stuff on the outside. But this is this is one of the most important slides to understand, is when they see this plasma sheath that made up that double-headed eagle and the Gyroft thing, within it, in between those little empty spaces where there's plasmoid balls, there's these like X patterns that you can see as crosses or X's or spiders or hourglasses or just a million different things. So, and that's only a small part of this event, not the whole thing. And there's always the 2 counter-rotating currents. This is the envelope too. And this also reminds me of Johnny Five from Short Circuit. And if you think about the Tunguska event, it creates an electromagnetic pulse, and things short circuit. Stuff starts working without being plugged in, and stuff that is plugged in, electrocutes people and stuff. But here's the last one, I think. And on this one, I want to point out, I see Thor's hammer in like the middle towards the bottom on the left. And I also see a lot of the X's and the chevron patterns. So here's Thor, right, with his hammer. And the image on the bottom right are petroglyphs in the extreme north, like Sweden or Scandinavia or something, right? And they have the hammers with them, and they have the circle with the X in the middle, right? A cross in the middle. And Thor's got his hammer, right? So this is what I'm talking about, right? This isn't the final evolution of the image, but when this plasma column happens and these toroids pop, between the toroids you see these filaments. It's plasma following magnetohydrodynamics, right? Magnets, the way that fluids that are magnet and work with a magnetic field, basically. Because the air in our sky is fluid. It's not liquid, but it's fluid. It's gas. And plasma, electromagnetism. Electricity and magnetism can't be separated. So see there, it makes so much sense to me how all of this happens, right? And what do they call it? Xmas, right? X marks the spot. Spider, grandmother, and Hopi. You got the hourglass, right? That represents time. I just see so much in these images, right? And when I compare some of these petroglyphs and geoglyphs and stories about grandmother spider and stuff, and then look at our magnetic field, and then think about, okay, so if that got lit up, people would see that, and then it'd be like a giant neon sign in the sky, and it would blow their mind. And it just makes perfect sense that this is exactly what happened, right? When you see things etched into the side of ruins and rocks that match exactly our magnetic field, right? Why else? Why? And within those little plasma columns between the toroids, with all the little fractal repeating VWM type patterns, I think that's part of what the obsession is with these elites and their W's and their M's. I mean, I know the M and W also sideways are 33, which is also the CC, right? Poison had a guitar player named CC DeVille. CC Devil, 33 Devil. I'm sure that's just coincidence, right? It's not like, But I see these military patches, too, reminding me of those patterns between the plasma sheaths, between the toroids in the plasma sheath. And then the highest ranks look like almost like a keel, or almost like an obelisk or a pyramid with a star on top, or a sun on top or something. And if you go back to the actual radiographs they had to do it on such a small scale that it didn't really look perfect. So they had to use math based on what they know about how our magnetic field works, right? And I just think there's so much that either accidentally through the ether or intentionally rubs this in our face. And this is how I think it could happen partially. Now, I don't claim this to be perfect, but basically I traced out inside of like a snow globe type thing, or a turtle shell, or a cosmic egg, the top half of it, what I think our magnetic field would look like based on this, and how these men on crosses, or these men on trees, or these men on mountains, or these cosmic gods hurling thunderbolts, a lot of times they're androgynous, right? And where these images of like Lucifer and the devil, and even Frylock from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, right? It looks like a little... And fry means to burn really quickly, right? And lock is like a witch or a wizard or whatever. So, I don't know. I'm sure that I don't have this completely figured out, but I think that's about as good a breakdown on the Kirkwall scroll that I can give. I might make one final closing video on this subject, just to get my final thoughts out and put a few more things there. I want to give more of the official narrative that the Masons have rather than my breakdown for it. But I kind of did that in the first video, but just I want to give that a little more. But tell me what you think in the comments. If what other sense could you make out of the Kirkwall scroll, right? Besides exactly this, right? It's a synthesis of everything I talk about in this video. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Give me a like, give me a follow if you enjoy the vids. I love y'all, and y'all have a blessed day.